openings, and then everything will be 3 minutes. All right, welcome everyone to the City of Madeira Beach Candidate Forum. I'm Robin Miller, and I'm the President and CEO for your Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber of Commerce. I'm going to go over the format today and a little bit of some requests that we have as I moderate this candidate forum. Reiterate forum, it is not a debate. I will ask the candidates when their opponent or other district's opponents are speaking that we do not interrupt each other. Everyone will have equal opportunity to speak. For the opening, you'll each have up to 5 minutes, up to 5 minutes. As a politician, you will learn up to means not to exceed. I will have a timer, my Vanna over here, and the buzzer will go off. I will give you a wave at 30-second countdown. For the questions, you will have 3 minutes to answer those. I will try my best to rotate who gets to go first on each segment. And then I've collected questions in advance, so we're going to hit those questions first because they came in through when we requested questions. And then I have some that have been handed to me here. Should we have time, I will start addressing those questions. I've lumped some together because some of them are very similar. I don't think I forgot anything. Any questions? I also would ask in the audience if you could keep your comments in the audience to yourselves. And if you have something to say to a candidate or a question that's not addressed here today, I'm sure they'd be happy to speak with you outside of City Hall. Okay, thank you. All right, so we're going to get this thing started. Set that timer for 5 minutes. All right, and I'm going to start right now from my left to the right. So we'll start with candidate David Taglorini with their opening remarks, please.
Okay, good. Good evening. I want to thank you for giving your time with us today. Oh, no, I get an extra 10 seconds.
They didn't start yet, so. All right, well then I will start mine. There you go. Got it.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for being here and giving us an opportunity to let us introduce ourselves, get you to know us. I realize that your time is valuable. I respect your time, and I want to make good and efficient use of it. I feel like I have to tell you more about my background because I came out of nowhere. I haven't been around in the city politics at all, hardly. But a little bit about myself. I'm a Florida native. I was born in Tampa. My parents were born in Tampa. My grandparents came over from Sicily and Spain, like so many did, into the Tampa Bay area. And I've been a homeowner on Madeira Beach for 25 years. I was on the Board of Adjustment for a short time when we had one years ago. But I resigned from there because at the time I was a full-time teacher, music teacher, and I didn't feel like I could dedicate the right amount of time. And it's been a hope of mine to get more involved in the city politics. And now that I retired last August, I have that time. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm going to try and get more and more involved. So what qualifies me for being a candidate on the Board of Commissioners? Well, I've been in the public school system for 33 years. I was in the classroom for 25 years. I taught at Seminole Middle School. I taught band and orchestra, and I taught at Madeira Beach Middle School before it was a fundamental school and after it was a fundamental school. So maybe I taught some of your kids because I was there for a good 12 years. After that, I was what's called a staff developer for Pinellas County Schools. That means I gave support, mentorship, professional development for all performing arts teachers in Pinellas County. I think it's important that you know that I had a second job all that time. I've been a freelance musician for that whole time, and I'm still going to do that. I played for the St. Pete Opera, Florida Orchestra, lots of the Broadway shows at the Strass Center. I'll get back to how that qualifies me later, but just so you know a little bit about me, I was doing that all along, and I'm still doing that as a part-time job now that I'm retired. Why does it qualify me? As a middle school classroom teacher, I not only had to communicate, motivate, and manage 200 pre-adolescent children every day for 26 years. I feel like I have some communication skills. As a staff developer, I had to communicate with over 200 teachers, and I had to give them important information. I had to provide support for them, mentorship. and I had to provide professional development for them, and I had to communicate with them efficiently. Their time was very valuable. Being a freelance musician as a second job, how did that qualify me? Well, I had to manage my time during the whole 33 years so that I was very efficient with the time that I spent as a teacher and then as a musician. Why do I want to be on the city politics? You might say, you're retired now. Why don't you go out and fish? Why don't you do something like that? Which I will do. My only motivation for being on the Board of Commissioners is to protect and improve my quality of life and the quality of life of my neighbors. I know you've seen some of these things happen. Remember when we just had crosswalks and you kind of took your life into your own hands, and then they gave us the flags to cross the streets, and now we finally have some blinkers? Well, somebody got involved and did that. I want to be one of those people. I want to get involved to do those kind of things. I want to be involved with decision making about our dog parks. We have some end of the street places that are kind of run down, and we all love our dogs. I want to be involved in that kind of thing. At some point, a crosswalk was moved from one part of the street to another. I want to be involved in those kind of decisions. Our public library, as you see, is being renovated. Somebody made those decisions, and those are important things to us. Now there's some concern about how more decisions are going to be made. I want to be involved with that. I feel like I should leave the rest of it for my wrap up, but let me just say that I sincerely want to be involved with important decisions that are part of your life as a Madeira Beach resident. As a Madeira Beach resident, they will affect me too. So I like to say, I care about what happens here because I live here too. So thank you for your time.
Good job. All right, here's 20 seconds shy. And go.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Happy Price. I'm your current commissioner for District 1 and your vice mayor. So I'm going to give you 3 reasons why I should be qualified or the most qualified for this position. First is experience. I've been your commissioner for District 1 for 2 years. Prior to going out for that job, I did my homework. I came to the meetings, I studied things. Now, as I stand here, I know the operations of Madeira Beach very well and the policy making process. I'm also a relatively new member of the board of trustees of our library. Our library is a nonprofit. It's funded by Pinellas County and 5 beach towns, the 3 Reddingtons, Madeira Beach, and Treasure Island. We're very fortunate to have the Gulf Beaches Library right here in our town, and we want to keep it here. That's why we rent the property to them across the street for just $1 a year, for instance. During our city budgeting process in 2020, it was discovered that the library had amassed about $1 million in certificates of deposits. Basically, it was taking taxpayer money each year and then asking for more while not using the funds that it did have to benefit the library. Mind you, this was during a time when our beaches were closed and we were preparing for who knows what, financial Armageddon as far as we were concerned up on the commission. But not surprisingly, 5 towns did not approve of the collection of money kept by the library. And so the mayors created a new interlocal agreement to address that and to offer some oversight. There were 2 key directives to that library agreement. Number 1 was reduce the number of trustees from 12 to 5, which makes sense. You'd like an odd number. And also to cap the reserves the library could hold on to. Myself and the Board of Commissioners for all 5 towns voted to approve that. And the result is now we see a lot of improvements in our library, and it's getting the much needed maintenance that it needs. New computers and faster internet connections, better lighting with LED lights. It's been painted inside and out, a new air conditioning, new front door. We're getting new furniture. Coming up are new restrooms, parking lot, and even a self-checkout kiosk. So we are truly planning for the future with the Gulf Beach Library. Frankly, this should have been done or in the works a long time ago, but it's being done now, and it's being done without costing you all 1 penny. But the library is not my only success. The second reason to reelect me is based on my history of, frankly, good results. We're getting grants again. In fact, just last night, our commission approved $746,000 of new grant money. That's just for this month. We got that in. I'm not going to promise that every month, but it's a great start. There's been no increase in our millage rate. We have the funding for the underground of our utilities all along Gulf Boulevard, which is secured from Pinellas County, and we're in great financial position here. Another good result is the organization of our building departments. 2 years ago, when I was walking the streets, a lot of people had kind of negative things to say about the process. Well, I can tell you, now, here we are 2 years later, we got a brand new state-of-the-art facility downstairs. We've hired more people, and we've approved software that allows property owners to like log right in and see the status and progress of their permits in real time. I've also been honored to pass several environmental ordinances, such as limiting the speed limits in our canals, which is at state level right now, the Leave No Trace ordinance, updating our animals on the beach to keep our coastline clean and protect our turtles. Mayor Hendricks announced just last night we're getting sea turtle friendly street lamps along Gulf Boulevard, which I'm thrilled about. And we received a grant to rebuild all our beach groins. So we've got some good progress. Finally, the third reason for voting for me is I am honest, I'm organized, and I'm hardworking. I've been an attorney and a resident here for 23 years. I was the managing partner of the Tampa office of the third largest labor and employment law firm in the United States. You don't get to that level without being organized and being a hard worker. I oversaw the work of 23 attorneys and 50 staff members. And I'm not shy.
15 seconds.
No problem advocating for Madeira Beach. So I want to continue to use my time and my skills to help this town, and let's keep Madeira Beach cool.
Thank you. And Ray, you're up, and you can start.
Hi, I'm Ray Kerr. First off, I wanted to thank Robin and the Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber of Commerce for putting this on. It's a valuable way to communicate to the residents. I'm a lifelong resident of Westminster, Maryland, and traveled down to Reddington Beach in 2008 for the first time to play golf with a friend and just fell in love with the area. We travel down on vacation for a month or 6 weeks at a time every year. And in 2010, we bought our home here in Madeira Beach. We couldn't afford at the time to move down, but we did that in 2017 and became full-time residents at that time and never looked back. This is going to be our forever home. And as part of that, I want to be part of this community in every way I can. My thoughts of getting politically active was kind of an accident, because where we are on the intercoastal, we were having trouble with high-speed boaters coming dangerously close to our dock. Couldn't do maintenance to the dock without concerns for the boats getting too close. We'd watch kayakers and paddleboarders go by and have boats traveling on plane, and it was just a dangerous thing. So I voiced concern to everyone that I could think of. Had the sheriff's department come to our home, had multiple people come to our home, and I was told it was a single resident issue. Come to find out, after talking to our neighbors, it wasn't. It was a community issue, and we brought that to the board, and we're very successful. And the board approved it unanimously, and had an ordinance approved. It took a lot of meetings to get to that point, and during my journey, I guess I would come to all these meetings and the breakfast. Well, it was with John Evans, and then it was breakfast with Bob, and just felt like I was becoming more and more a part of this community, and listening to the concerns and having my voice heard. And I think that's my future here in Madeira Beach. So a little bit about me. Back in you know, in Westminster, I started my own business in 2001 and never looked back on that either. So I'm still actively employed for myself. We sell air conditioning equipment nationwide to the hotel industry, to the assisted living industry, and student housing industry. And it's a national thing, but it's a small business. So I've had to learn how to work with government, how to work with balance a budget, and how to be reasonable with everything I do. In 2019, I was appointed to the Planning Commission. And if you follow the politics here in the town, you'll find that many of the issues that come to the board first travel through the Planning Commission. So I'm not only from coming regularly to the board meetings for over the last 3 years, but being part of that in the Planning Commission, I feel like I have a very good background, a really great basis to start a journey as your commissioner. So you can find out more about me, but in a better way. You're going to ask questions tonight, but many of your questions won't get asked. So I put together a website, and part of that website, you can contact me, and it's kirkhares.com. If I'm allowed, I'll put this up here.
30 seconds.
And so I ask you to send me your message. I'm a good listener, and I want to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you. And we ready? Go ahead.
Good evening, Charles Chuck Dillon. I had to add the Charles to make it legal. Nobody really knows me as Chuck, but I had to do this for the campaign. I'm a resident here from 11 years. Love the city, moved here 11 years ago. Lived in a rental house for the first 2 years while I was building a house. So I built a hurricane house, went through all those processes. I designed the house and met with contractors to see about finding somebody to get my house built, and was able to do that through a 6-month process. I have a construction background. I had 23 years project managing for various contractors, and that's what started me into politics 3 years ago. I stood up in front of the board in mid-2019 when the Crystal Island project was going to be built. And I stood up and questioned quite a few of the things that were being proposed. And I questioned them so much that Doug Andrews was the only commissioner at the time that's still here. And he brought me back to the podium and asked me probably 5 minutes worth of questions. And then after that, I was asked by the commissioners if I would help oversee the road project. That was a $12 million road project, Crystal Island project. I'm not sure. I think I see quite a few of the residents that were there. Because of my background and knowledge about that, I was able to help the city get through that project. I had 23 years in the construction end. I also was 34 years as a flight service manager for TWA and American Airlines. So I was in the back talking to all these people, and some people thought that I was a pilot, so I wasn't talking like this. I got on the microphones and could talk directly to people. I have good communication skills. I learned that through the airlines, and I also feel very comfortable talking to people. I have been getting signatures and putting yard signs around and learning about a lot of the old people in town. I'm one of those old people too, the old residents that have been here 30, 40 years. And it's incredible to find out about the history and everything here. I wasn't a politician. I didn't really think about any of this, but people have asked me to do this. I was asked to run for commission 3 years ago in 2019, November. Some people approached me and wanted me to run for commission at that point for the 2020. And I said no, because I had already committed to the road project. And also I said no to that because I didn't want to split my time. I knew I was going to be fully committed to the road project. Also, let me back up. I'm retired. I retired early, but enjoy it. Moved down here to Florida and it's fantastic. I also believe what my beliefs are here. I believe in development with a reason. And part of my ideas are, if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. So I've gotten together with some of the developers and have asked them questions. Part of my problems here is people stand up at the podium and there's no communication. You stand up there and it feels like you're talking on deaf ears. And we have a very good mayor here, but they can't say anything. And I don't know whether or not anything can be changed there, but it's something that I would like to look into. More communication, more transparency.
30 seconds.
And as somebody was asking me here today about the property that's going to be sold, asking me questions. And I'm very, if I do not know the question, I will find out who knows those answers and get you those answers. Also, I'm running for commission 2, but if anybody in the whole city has questions, feel free to get a hold of me and I will try to get your answers. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. I am. This is our question and answer portion. I will start with District 2 on this one. So you can stay standing because I'm going to let you take this question first and I'm going to go right to left. Thank you.
I think you should use your
D-
phone.
I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and use my phone for this round. Okay. All right. So the question, and if you need me to repeat the question before we start, I will do that. In the past, the city has had committees made up of residents contributing input regarding city budget, charter review, and the like. As a candidate, what is your position on citizen involvement with committees for the city as a whole?
Well,
And let me get my timer started. You clearly understand the question because you're ready. And go.
I personally have not been on any of the committees. I was asked last year after the Crystal Island project was finished to be on one of the committees because of the knowledge that I had and everything. So to answer that question, it's kind of difficult for me. However, I do feel that there's very important to have citizen response and citizen input with all of these areas. The more citizens we can get involved with this stuff, the better it's going to be. In terms of the road committee, I was a person of one on the Crystal Island Road Committee because nobody else stood up to say anything. There was Mr. C out here who was talking about various the things he was in construction also. He agreed. He was working at the time and very busy, but he agreed with my whole process. So I believe that citizen involvement is very important.
You understand the question? Ready? Got it.
Citizen committees. Yes, I support citizen committees. As we sit up here and you know, as a board member, you sit up here and you're asked to deliberate on an issue. There is no way possible that you're going to think of everything on that issue. Let's just take the dog parks. I don't have a dog. I've had a dog my entire life until we moved down here. But that being said, we know plenty of people that do, and the dog parks, they could use some improvement. Either resodding annually, or maybe astroturf of some sort, or more of them. The dogs aren't allowed on the beach, so that leaves them in a dog park or walking in the streets to be picked up, which is great. The other things, the marina. Let's talk about different ideas for that. The high and dry doesn't seem fiscally responsible. I was impressed by last evening's proposition with that one. But all these things can be, there's a lot of brain power here. A lot of people that are retired from different, either construction or legal or engineering or whatever. Let's bring some of that brain power to work for us. It'd be silly not to. That's it.
Thank you. Sorry.
I guess my stance on citizen committees is we have two very good committees as it's standing right now. We have the Civil Service Committee and we have the 7-person planning committee, which Ray is on. And we get a lot of good input from those people, and they come up with some great ideas for us, no doubt about it. Sometimes, though, it's been my experience that committees can also slow down progress. Sometimes when the iron is hot, you got to strike. And if you start putting together committees of citizens that may or may not be able to meet during the day, may or may not want to meet in the evening, God forbid this COVID thing lately pretty much shut down all non-essential committees since I've been a commissioner, because really people couldn't meet. So I'd like to see it come back again. I think we have a committee for the rec center now, which is like a nonprofit. And they've been doing great work and putting on events. They're good for raising money, that's for sure, for their projects. But I'm not sure I would want a committee for every single decision made up here. I think that's kind of what the job is of us. We're responsible for you. You could vote us out if you don't like what we do. You can keep us in if you do like what we do. So I think the buck stops with the commission and the city manager and how it's run. But committees can be kind of double-edged sword. And unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to work with too many of them simply because of the process lately. I do know the budget committee this year or last year, we couldn't use it because we were in such a time crunch and the COVID problem with us. So I think I would welcome more input from people. Certainly everybody can contact me and tell me anything they want, whether they're on a committee or not. So I listen to people. And if any of you have ever contacted me, I write you back or I call you back. So please, if you don't want to get on a committee or don't want to commit to being on a committee, definitely give me a call and I'll advocate for you. Thank you.
And David.
Yes, I like committees. I think that they're important, citizen committees. I think they're very important. I'd like to see the return of the charter committee. We had a committee that evaluated all the charter amendments, and that committee has not met. I'm not even quite sure if it exists anymore, but I think those are important. To that point, I like to take the big picture and bring it down, and how does this work? I think people should be able to commit to their time. If there should be a requirement to be on a committee, not just I want to do it, I'm interested, I'm smart. Can you do it on a regular basis? Can you do it? So some kind of requirements to time constraints for the most part. If I were commissioner, one of the ideas I had would be to not just have committees for residents' input, but I would have email surveys so that I could take a question that I knew was going to come up on the agenda. I would explain it in as easy a way as possible. And I would say, what do you think of this? Yes or no, or comments, so that I could come back to the board meeting and I could say, well, the people that responded to my survey said this and others said this. So I believe in the residents' involvement. I think it is important that it be limited to some extent because it can get crazy. As the Pinellas County Music Educators Association president, it was important to me to communicate with all of the teachers, and teachers are smart people and they all have an opinion. So you have to figure out how to communicate with them in a way and make sure that you understand where they're coming from. And that would be what I would do. I would get residents' opinions in that way. I would just ask them, make sure they understand the question, and I would just ask them. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. All four of you had at least a minute left. Good job. All right. We had several questions come in regarding this. I'm going to do my best to ask the question as clearly as I can. The topic of this question are the newly imposed impact fees. In 2021, apparently the city of Madeira Beach approved impact fees for new construction and reconstruction projects. The fees start at a certain rate, low, but then steadily increase escalation. As a candidate, what is your position on these impact fees? So now I'll start with Commissioner Vice Mayor Price, and then I'll bop around to the right.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
3 minutes, so we're still using my clock. All right. There we go.
Well, I voted for the impact fees when it came up. This was actually an initiative from the previous commission. I thought it was a great one. It took us 2 years and hiring an expert to actually help Madeira Beach through the process, because you don't just get to say, okay, we're going to impose impact fees. The state of Florida has something to say about it. So we had to hire an expert from the University of Florida, walked us through the process, multiple citizen meetings about it, multiple discussions on the dais about it. Finally, we get to a point where we've gone back and forth to Tallahassee. We've done all the analysis. You don't just get to pick a number and say, okay, if you're going to make your house twice as large, we're going to charge you X amount of money per square foot, and we're just going to use this money where we want. Oh no, the state of Florida requires you to do a huge analysis about what you're going to use the money for, and it oversees how much you can charge. So that was a big analysis, which our expert did, and he did very well. Turns out our recreation facilities are going to be getting the most of the money that we collect with our impact fees. Then it's safety and roads. So these are all things we want. I wouldn't be surprised if every little beach town along here follows suit and does the same thing. I thought it was a great idea. I still do. We postponed it after we approved it. We postponed it for, I believe, a year or 8 months to let people get acclimated, because people had projects that they were planned for, and we didn't want to just throw this monkey wrench in. So we started off with only imposing a fraction of the fees. The next year, another fraction. The next year, another fraction. It's going to take several years to get up to the full amount that was approved. And we did it. And I'm rather proud of it. I think it'll help our infrastructure. We all are concerned about that. So let's use the money that we collect from people who are improving, not just improving, enlarging their project. If you want to remodel your home, that's fine. But when you add a room or you add square footage, only then does the impact fee come into effect. So remember that. But I think it'll be a good one. And certainly any large projects here in Madeira Beach will generate quite a bit of money for us.
Thank you. Mr. Kerr. And start.
As a member of the Planning Commission, I'm very in tune with the impact fees. I worked with, or we worked with Jerry Murphy on this for about 6 months, I'll say. The bulk of that was just getting the paperwork in place so that we could get to a point where we understood what the actual cost to the city was for fire, for police, for our roads, for our infrastructure, for everything that we actually pay our property taxes for. And he came up with a cost, and then with the math, it just makes sense to me commercially, and that's, I brought it up many times, that when a commercial property is planned, that an impact fee is brought in because it's definitely impacting the cost to the community, and our residents shouldn't have to pay for that cost. Now, I have trouble with the residential impact fee because on one hand, with the 50% rule, you can only do a minimum amount of renovation to your home. I'll just use my home. My home's nearly 50 years old. If you use the FEMA guidelines, the home is only worth $100,000. That means you're only allowed a $50,000 renovation. You're not going to get very far in today's dollars with a $50,000 renovation. So if you exceed that, you have to meet all FEMA guidelines, which basically means tear your house down and start over. So it's a big change because just before you build the first room, you have 6 figures into the cost of your home if you go that route, and then up. Now, who's going to put in $5, $6, $7, $8 million into their home and not get what they really want or what that property deserves? You're not going to want your laundry room in your garage anymore.
30 seconds.
You're going to want a home office. You're going to want something that's the value of that home, and for the city to charge an extra fee to that resident, I think that's ridiculous. Thank you.
Chuck. Go ahead.
I'll make this real quick. I've heard about the impact fees, but I don't really know that much about it because I haven't been a board member or have not been on the planning commission. So to speak about it, I could not speak intelligently. So I would have to do more research on it to be able to speak intelligently about it. So one of my honesty things, I'm not even going to try to fluff it. You can have my time.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Thank you. So we're gonna, I'm so sorry. Getting ahead of myself. Well, and I can't add that 2 minutes and 29 seconds to yours. Okay, that's what I was doing down here.
I have to say that in order to give an informed answer, I can only tell you my perspective of this issue, and that is as a homeowner. And I think Ray touched on that, and that is I can only do so much to my house and have it qualify. So I guess my short answer, and I don't know how popular this is going to be, so this is me. I feel like there should be a case by case or maybe a different set of impacts for residents. A lot of our homes on Madeira Beach are very old. They've been here before 1985. There's lots of one-story houses here. In order for them to do proper renovation, they might not be able to afford what they should be able to due to these impact fees. And I don't think that the impact of a single family dwelling is going to be that much of a strain on the infrastructure as much as a business would. So to me, it feels like that the impact fees should have a different set of percentages for businesses and those kind of things separate from the residents, especially if it's an older house where it was built before 85 when we had to start building, still houses such as that. So I guess I give some time back too.
Thank you. Great. Apologize for that. Okay. So this question has been at almost every candidate forum that I have moderated, and not only in this beach, but every beach that we represent as a chamber. And that has to do with development and redevelopment. It is at times a divisive topic, and no matter what community we've been in, and there's varying positions as it relates to that. So I'm going to keep this question as simple as I can for your 3 minutes, and that is, what is your position as it relates to development, redevelopment within the city of Madeira Beach? I'm going to let you go first this time. And go.
Well, I think sustainable growth is a super important topic. And when I say sustainable, I think that whatever happens, that's growth and development, we have to be able to support it with our infrastructure. And if we can't, then I think the business needs to be responsible for making up the difference. I think that we have to have a big picture of what our beach looks like. Let's face it, we live on an island, all right? When I moved here, it really was a sleepy little island. And I've seen some things happen that have been wonderful here. I love what's happened in our recreation area. I love what's happened in our city hall. There's other things that I don't love so much. I can't see the beach when I drive down Gulf Boulevard. And I know that 1-story blocks a beach as much as 4 stories, but I feel like you should be able to know you're on an island. I know that's kind of a big picture thing, and it's a pie in the sky thing. Growth is going to happen. But I say everything in moderation, including moderation. Let's think about what the big picture is for what we want here. I feel like we do need to redevelop, we need to grow, just not for the sake of growing and growth and development. But more importantly, let's keep in mind the people who live here all the time. How is it going to impact them? We pay the property taxes. We're the ones that are going to be responsible for maintaining the infrastructure. So let's look at each case. Let's make sure that growth isn't just happening so that some developer gets to make a huge profit. Well, maybe we need the profit. Maybe the quality of our life is the profit that we should consider with growth and development. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go down and let Chuck go ahead and start this. Good. Good.
Once again, as I said in my opening statement, I believe in development, but with reason. And my standpoint is, if you're not moving forward, you're moving backward. You can't really stay still. Stagnant doesn't make it. And as David said, development with reason. And so long as our city and island can support development, it's fine. But let's keep development with reason. And what we have done, there's the 2 factions, and there are the 2 different political standpoints, far left, far right. But I look to try to get in the middle, because the far left has a lot of good ideas, the far right has a lot of good ideas. Let's try to meet in the middle. And that's one of the things that I am trying to do with basically both parties, both far left and far right. Be the middle person, be the person that can find the ideas from both of them, combine them together, and then propose them to the public, propose them to everybody. Be transparent and let everybody know what's available. Also, I learned when I was building my house, my ex-wife at the time, people need to see things and be able to understand as far as like heights and widths and things. And just like everybody says, they'd love to be able to see the beach. Well, but so do you want a taller building so that you can see the beach, or a wider building so it's not as tall? There's got to be a give and take, and there's got to be a median. And that's where I hope I would be. Thank you.
And we'll go with Happy next. Go ahead.
Well, I think all of us really agree, nobody wants overdevelopment here, right? We're in Madeira Beach. We have a unique little town here. We're half residents and half commercial. So we've really hit that sweet spot as far as we live in a really good place. I can walk to restaurants, I can walk to bars, I can see live music, and it's wonderful. We cannot stop all growth, but we certainly can control it. And I hear a lot of talk about we need to look at each case and we need to give and take and things like that. There's one problem with all of this, and it's called the law, right? You pay $25 million for a beachfront lot. And if you build your building on it, that's within the setbacks and the height restrictions that's already on the books, we have no say about what goes up. The landowner can put up whatever they want as long as it's within those parameters. Now, it has to go through our planning and building department and make sure it's hurricane proof, blah, blah, blah. But someone could put an igloo on our beach, and as long as it was a small enough building, they could do it. We don't get a say, right? Most developers or most landowners go with the planned development project. That's where the citizens get a way to have some input. The planning commission has a lot of input. I mean, they study it as hard or harder than the commission does. I mean, it's a very long process. It's very costly for developers, but you know what? The result is something that the city can live with and the developer can live with, and everyone typically is happy. We're always going to have those that say absolutely no development. We're going to always have those that say, bring it on. I want more in here. I don't want any tax increase. And the only way to do it is to bring in more commercial. I'm in the middle, as I believe everybody is. No one's for development or against development, but we do have to work within the parameters of the law. I do want to make one comment on a project that I voted to approve last night, along with the entire rest of the commission. It was a unanimous decision, and it was a planned development, the Schooner Hotel. That's going to be a really pretty hotel, and it's going to improve both sides of Gulf Boulevard. And in order to build that hotel, the owner, the landowner and the property owner is giving us a park,
30 seconds.
okay, which we can use as a park, or we can just use it as green space. They have to remill and resurface 140th and 150th Avenues and put in wide sidewalks. The owner must do its own undergrounding on Gulf Boulevard. It must increase the landscaping over and above what's required if they just stayed within the existing ordinance. And they have to build a row of retail spaces along Gulf Boulevard so that the walkability is nice. Now you're not
Time.
walking by a sandlot.
Y'all have helped me learn how to use my clock finally.
You are brutal.
Yep. You can hear it too. All right. Yes. Ready?
Oh, boy, development is a divisive issue in this town. That is something I've definitely learned. It's a balance. Property rights versus what the community wants. Happy kind of hit it on the head, or definitely did, as far as long as you fit into the guidelines on that piece of property, you build what you can on that guy on there. It gets hairy when you get into the plan development. You have to have reasonable people in place to try to figure out what is reasonable and what makes sense. I guess, you know, when I think of Madeira Beach, I think of a residential area, a residential neighborhood with commercial zones. And those zones, as long as those zones stay limited and we're not rezoning to create more commercial, we can have that balance. One of the things that I mentioned on my website is one of the things that's more important to me on the, whether it's a 2-story, 3-story, or 4-story structure or whatever, is like in John's Pass, we're talking about putting a hotel in there that hasn't been reviewed. It hasn't been drawn up yet, as far as I know. But it's important to me to save that fishing village character of John's Pass Village. That's what drew a lot of us here. We came on vacation, and if if you're a long-term resident, one person I met was here for 70 years. Holy mackerel! But I digress. It's that feel, and I think there should be some restrictions in that activity center as far as what can be built, as far as the aesthetics. Mentioning the schooner, they did give up a lot to get where they are. So I think that turned out well. The biggest issue with that is the traversing Gulf Boulevard with the parking. That is an issue. But legally, they were allowed to do, like I said, property rights. Legally, they were allowed to do what they did. It's contiguous property, and they were allowed to
30 seconds.
move those units to the west side. Regardless, if they couldn't have, they would have had to build 25 units on the east and 30 some on the west side, and you'd had parking underneath. You still had traffic across, more pedestrian traffic. It's just that they'd be carrying their beach umbrella at the same time. So it's within reason. You have to find someone that's reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have, I gave us time for one more question so that we have time for my quick fun lightning round and then also your closing comments. So being the Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber, I cannot leave a candidate forum without asking this question. And that is, could you articulate to the community how you understand the value tourism has on your community? Or if you don't believe it has a value on the community, okay? But what is your position as it relates to tourism, impact of tourism? And then I guess we get to let you go first.
Awesome. You know, as we work through these debates on development or not, tourism is one thing that keeps me up at night. Everyone that comes to sell anything to the board always cites tourism as a great advantage, something we're bringing to the city. But there's a cost to that. What's that balance? Tourism creates more traffic. Tourism creates noise. You wouldn't have a rooftop bar if you didn't have tourism. But it also has a lot of benefits that go along with that, because you wouldn't have that rooftop bar. You wouldn't be able to go as a resident to enjoy something that was built for tourism. You wouldn't have John's Pass Village to enjoy. So as far as financially, most of those tourism dollars are sales tax. We're restricted as a city in gaining direct revenue from those taxes. The property tax goes to the county. Yeah, we get a piece of it. But the biggest piece that we get is in parking. That full dollar comes to the city. So I support parking, but I also support, let's figure out a way to disguise those parking garages, just like we did with the Planning Commission with the schooner. We had them do the retail, and that whole front of that building on Gulf Boulevard is not going to look like a parking garage. We don't want to live in a concrete village. At least I don't. So there's definitely benefits, and we need to be better at, and I think we do well, but I think we need to be better at bringing more direct dollars, whether that can be done. You know, I know the bed tax, you're restricted on what you can do and what you can't do, but more of those tourism dollars to keep our taxes low and to keep our community updated and keep our infrastructure updated. We have a lot of expenditures coming in the next few decades with sea level rise and with our streets. We're going to be spending a lot of money, so we have to figure out
30 seconds.
how to pay for that. The current board has been great at getting grants, but we need to even be better at getting grants, because you know, we bring a lot of revenue to the state and to the county, and we need to be recognized for that and get some of that money to benefit the residents here. Thank you.
Thank you. David, we're going to let you second.
So having lived here for 25 years, I understand the value and the importance of tourism. I learned about the beaches as a kid. We used to vacation on Gulf beaches when I was young. And at one point I decided, well, why do I have to just come here for vacation? Why don't I just live here? So I knew what I was getting into. But as in most things, I like to dig in deeper. Well, do we want to attract tourists? Yes. But what I would like to see happen is that we create tourist attractions that are quality attractions, you know, things that residents could take advantage of, that residents could enjoy. Not that we don't have, you know, good restaurants, and we have good places. Don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying is, when I first came here, I thought, oh, this place is this beach is full of t-shirt shops and tattoo parlors. Nothing against t-shirt shops and tattoo parlors. You have to have those too. But let's have some places that the residents can enjoy too. So my answer to that question is, of course, we live in Florida. We live on a beach resort. We're going to want to attract tourists, but let's attract them for the right reasons. Let's not be a tourist trap. Let's be a tourist attraction. Let's have some guidelines for the kind of attractions that we want to have here. And I know you're saying, oh, that's a very nice philosophy. How are you going to make that happen? I don't know. That's why I'm getting into city government to see how we can make that happen. That's the kind of place that I would like to live in.
Make timer. Hold on. Give me my timer. We're going to go with Chuck next. And go ahead.
Tourism is very important, absolutely. However, like David said, residents are very important as well. We live here. We deal with this all the time. So it's important to find the blend, just like I was saying about you got your developers and your other siders, that we need to work together on this. Without tourism, where would we be? Our taxes would be through the roof. However, we still are a residential city. And I feel the residents have a need to have a big say in this stuff. And that's where I'm wanting, as my slogan is, I am here for you. I am definitely pro-resident and I like the tourism. I don't really know for sure how much the difference is between how much money we generate as tourist money and how much we generate in just revenues from people living here, what our taxes are and everything. We have a good amount. I learned that people, John's Pass, the vendors there were saying about how they spend so much money and so much taxes towards the city. And somebody weighed it against Crystal Island. And the Crystal Island generates more money, more taxes than all of John's Pass income. So there's a fine line here. I am for the residents, but by all means, we need tourism as well. Thank you.
Ready? I don't think that's on.
A big part of our identity here in Madeira Beach is tourism. When I moved here 23 years ago, I knew exactly what I was getting into. I'm not out on Crystal Isle away from everything. I'm a couple of blocks off of Gulf Boulevard. Frankly, I love it. I think it's great. I like walking down to John's Pass. I take all my guests there. It's not just a source of income, but it's a big source of income. And I worked this out because I figured the Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber of Commerce would ask about tourism. So for me, I pretty much welcome tourism every day, all day, right? I know there's times when I've got to wait and not get into my favorite restaurant, or else I got to eat dinner at 4:30, but I'm willing to do that for a couple of months out of the year or spring break. Let me tell you, we make in the last year, last 12 months, this city has made $3,054,000 on just our parking. This isn't money from anywhere else, just our parking. And we have 2,117 households here in Madeira Beach. So basically, the tourists are paying the first $1,500 of my taxes. Here's how you figure it out. I've got my tax bill here. My tax bill to Madeira Beach, what actually goes to Madeira Beach, is $576. And yes, I've been homesteaded a long time. $576. If without the parking, that amount would be $2,079. So just the parking is paying our way to live here. And I don't mind I can hear some music and things at night. It doesn't bother me too much. It bothers me when I hear people say, we need to put up a sign on Tom Stewart Causeway that says Madeira Beach is closed because they don't like the traffic. Well, really, I've heard it. Honestly, they've done multiple traffic studies in this town and we are nowhere near at maximum capacity on our roads. Think about it. On a regular day, it's only one light cycle to get through our busiest intersection of 150th and Tom Stewart Causeway, at least when
30
I'm
seconds.
going down there. I think our infrastructure can support the tourism coming in here. My toilet still flushes. Nothing's coming back. I turn on the water, it's still pretty strong. I've got low flow apparatuses all over the place, that the city makes me, or the state makes me put in. I think we should be welcoming tourism. I like tourism. I mean, I'm not going to kowtow to them. I think if they start hurting our residents, I'd be against it, but I don't see that happening. I see it only as helpful.
David? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And this is what happens when Robin gets hungry. All right, and everyone, okay. Whoa, there we go. And I was concerned too, because I know that you and I discussed prior to this, so I'm going to let you go first. I have a job to go to. So we're having a lightning round first, and these are one answer questions. We're gonna see how good you are. One word answers, please. And they're gonna be really quick. It's so easy. This is fun stuff. This is not calculating taxes. All right. So here we go. Your favorite business on Madeira Beach, David?
Lisa's Cafe.
Happy.
It's 2 words,
Oh my
sorry.
goodness. I'm going to have to say it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Ray? Oh boy. Oh boy.
The Candy Kitchen.
Good one.
Chuck.
Brass Captain.
Okay. All right. We'll start again. David, seafood or steak?
Seafood.
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 Steak.
Uh-oh. You're in the seafood group or capital of Florida. Fun. All right, Chuck. Sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
Ray?
Sunrise.
Happy?
Oh, love them.
Sunset. All right. And this is the last one before you get your quick 3 minutes. Eating pizza, fork or hand?
And
Deep dish fork.
All right. Just to have some fun to get to know your candidates. We're going to start with our lightning round with David, and I know you'll have to. Okay. And I do want to state this I just had this thought, kind of why I lost track of who was speaking, but we have a lot of questions here that I didn't get to this evening. So I've never done this before, but what I'd like to do is type up those questions that have been handed to me. Do each of you have a website? I know that you say you do. So each of you do. I would suggest that so these citizens could see what your answers would be to these exact questions. I'll type them up and I will email them to every candidate. And I would like to give you a deadline to get your answers put up. So today is Thursday. It'd be great if 1 week from today, your answers could be up for the citizens to read those answers. Commitment? All right, that sounds good. So David, you've got 3 minutes to do your closing on why you should get their vote.
Thank you. Communication. I'm here to represent residents and businesses equally. I'm here to find out what you want, and I'm going to explain to you what we're doing so that you understand what it is that we're talking about. I want you to know that my website is davidtagmadeirabeach.com. Tag. My last name is Taglorini. My students always called me Mr. Tag. So my friends call me Tag. You can call me Tag. But davidtagmadeirabeach.com. That's my website. On Facebook, I'm Meet David Taglorini. On Nextdoor Madeira, I'm Campaign for David Taglorini. So I welcome you to join any of those groups and direct your questions to me. So the job she's talking about, I have a rehearsal at 7 o'clock with Tampa Bay Symphony. I don't want to piss off the maestro because he can be tough, but so I won't be able to stick around afterwards. I'm very sorry about that. But I hope to hear from you these questions that she answers, and look for me on Facebook, look for me on Nextdoor, and look for me on the web. Meet davidtagmadeirabeach.com. Thank you.
Good job.
well, you heard my action-packed opening statement where I went through that I have the experience. I get the results, and I certainly have the hard work involved in doing this job. I've done it for 2 years. I enjoy it. Let me show you. This is the packet we got before our meeting yesterday. Just so you all know, this is front and back, single spaced. You're gonna have to look at this, dissect it, get your questions ready. I mean, it's a lot of work, but I love it. It's fun. And I think I'm pretty good at it. You've heard about what I've done. I'd like to talk a little bit about the future. one thing, and I haven't brought this up on the dais yet, and I will if I'm reelected, but I'd like to see more visual art here in Madeira Beach. That did so much for St. Petersburg, for instance. And we do have a lot of good artists here and musicians for that matter. But I kind of like the idea of having visual art around and placing it in great places, having murals that are done that aren't too confusing. Some of those St. Pete ones are like, but I mean, I saw that little dolphin down here, that blue angel dolphin. That thing is beautiful in Rock Park. We need to put things like that around. We've got the trash pirates. They're keeping our streets really clean. Love those guys. You know, our ordinances that we're really cleaning up the place. Let's make it more visually nice for us to do. I'd love to see a maritime museum here in Madeira Beach. I think we need to create an ode to our fishing backgrounds. And we've started a little bit in Johns Pass. Maybe that's where it belongs, right there in Johns Pass, as an attraction that's a little more upscale than tattoos, maybe. But you know, I mean, I would love to see that. I think there's a lot. I've heard some talk about Madeira Beach being referenced as a group or republic, and I loved it. I said someone needs to make a T-shirt and make Madeira Beach group or republic, because I think we can capitalize on that. Anyway, I'm always open for any of your questions or comments. You know how to get a hold of me through the city, but I'll leave a card for everybody. My website is voteforhappy.com. And you've got my phone number. It's my regular cell number. Everybody has it. So give me a call if you have any questions. I'm an open book.
30 seconds.
I'll answer anything you like, and you can get to know me better. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Ray.
I wanted to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Community involvement is important. That's why I'm here. Some of the things that I'd like to make sure that get done in the next couple of years if I'm elected. I know that the city is currently doing the undergrounding on Gulf Boulevard for the power lines. There's a next step to all the communities, all the residential communities. I'd like to be very active in that. We need to get grants for that, and the community needs to be ready for that. I think the city should be able to put some financial packages together when that happens, so that if it's a hardship for someone to connect, because I know that each property owner would have a couple $1,000s probably to actually connect. They may need to be able to finance that. I'm sure there's some ways to do that. I've talked about preserving the fishing village look of Johns Pass Village. City Marina definitely needs a facelift. It saddens me when I come across the causeway and I see the city marina, and it used to have the chain link fence and now it has the board fence. It's like we're trying to hide it. I know it's for security, but it's just, in my opinion, it's an eyesore the way it is. And I think that should be at least one restaurant, maybe two, someplace for the tourism. I refrain from keep saying, mini Johns Pass Village, but just someplace that, eventually there is going to be a hotel there that we can capitalize on those tourism dollars, some retail there. And to go with the flow of the marina, we need to talk to some service companies, marine service, boat service companies. If you have a dual hull boat, try to find a marina that will pull it and actually do work on it. They're very popular. And I think with the trailer that could be able to pull them out, that would be a big revenue source and something that would benefit residents that have that type of boat.
30 seconds.
Red tide, I think not only, we had the spillage that made the news with the commercial, whatever it was, but also we need to check the wastewater industry and make sure what they're dumping into our water is not adding nutrients for the red tide. Here again, please go to careers.com. Ask me a question.
Time.
If I can put a yard sign, let me know. Thank you.
I'm getting sad because my timer job is now coming to a close. Go ahead.
I'm not trying to read, but this is something that I wrote and it's easier to read than to do. My background and interest in our city government make me uniquely qualified for service on the Board of Commissioners. I'm honest, responsible, trustworthy, and ready to bring new ideas and priorities to the board. That's basically my standpoint and where I come from. Also, my website is dylanformadeira.com. My son was doing most of this stuff, and on my flyers, part of the things of me is I have 2 sons, and I was going to be a grandfather, and I became a grandfather 4 days ago. So
Congratulations.
he has been the person that has been doing my websites and everything. So, and obviously he's been in and out of the hospital and very busy with my new grandson. Thank you all. And thank you for everybody coming here. And thank you, Robin, for having us.
Thank you. That's my pleasure. I'm going to reiterate that I will send you the questions, and I would just urge you to keep your answers concise. Sometimes we say 50 words or less is better, especially for the people that'll be reading them. You'll have those posted by next Thursday. A couple words to leave you with. I heard mentorship. I heard sea turtles, library, development, redevelopment, research, safety, citizens, tourism, grants, planning, but last but not least, a passion for the city of Madeira Beach. So good luck to each of you, and we'll look forward to working with whoever wins. Thank you.